Welcome to In Our Nature, St. John, where city streets meet salt marshes. St. John, New Brunswick ecosystems tell a story of resilience. Join us as we explore how nature and people coexist. The St. John Naturalists Club can be found under Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Nature St. John. Come study, conserve, educate, and enjoy nature together with us on the East Coast of Canada. Donations are accepted at the Canada Helps website. If you've been listening into our podcasts in the last little while, you know that most of our podcasts are about educational pieces about the world around us. But today I thought I'd try something a little different. We're going to be looking at the human aspect of nature. So today we are joined by two people whose lives have been intertwined with the natural world for decades, Jim and Jean Wilson. For many in the St. John region, the Wilsons are more than familiar names. They're a part of the landscape itself. Jim's deep knowledge of birds, ecosystems, and local natural history has shaped how generations of New Brunswickers understand the world around them. And alongside of him is Jean, whose quiet strength, curiosity, and commitment to the community has been essential to their shared journey. Together, Jim and Jean have spent a lifetime exploring, teaching, documenting, and celebrating the nature of this place. And the story is one of partnership with each other, with the land, and with the people who have learned from them. Jim and Jean, welcome. We're so glad to have you here to share your history with nature. How did the two of you first connect with nature and with each other?
I met Jim through a mutual friend. I was in nursing at the time, and we were living in residence. And she graduated from high school with Jim. I was out at her house, went to a gathering on the beach with a bunch of young people, and Jim was there. That was the first time I met him. And eventually, we sort of liked being around each other and decided that maybe we would start dating.
And where did nature come into play? Like how?
Oh, very, very quickly.
Okay.
We would just go for walks. We had no money that time. We were both students. So we would do a simple date of walking along the road or whatever. And while we were walking at nighttime, Jim would hear all kinds of sounds, and he would tell me that there was a migration of thrushes tonight, and that the scoters were migrating up the river. And I thought, well, I don't know, a little squeak here and a little tuck there. And he was listening to the sounds of these birds, and I realized later that he did know what he was talking about, right. That he wasn't making this up.
So your first dating experiences, were those your first outdoor adventures together, really?
Yes.
Would you describe it that way?
Yeah. See, Jean grew up in an environment where she spent a lot of time outdoors with her family. And interestingly, I grew up outside St. John, and I would go down to Charlotte County to a lake called Coronary Lake. There was another family that would go in there, and they had a little girl and a little guy, and they were on that lake too, fishing. There was very, very few people went in there. And it turned out, when Jean and I met each other, she was a little girl in the other boat. Oh. So we had a lot in common right off the bat.
But we
years of going fishing and being in the outdoors, just in that one little environment, which was interesting.
But we didn't know each other.
We didn't know each other.
No. So how old do you think you both were when you first saw each other? Probably much younger than the day on the beach.
Oh yeah, that we would have been 10.
I was 9 years old
9
when
or
I
10.
first started going in there with my dad, my uncle, and I think probably within a year or two, these Sullivan people were in we would wave to each other, and my uncle knew Jean's dad, and my father did too. Of course, I was just a little kid. So.
And that was over like 60 years ago now.
Yeah,
over 60 years ago. That would have been 70 years ago.
Yeah, so that was sort of the first...
Not quite 70.
First nature, that would be the first nature connection the two of us had indirectly.
Indirectly,
and independently of each other, but we had shared the same kind of background and all that,
Okay. And how has nature shaped your relationship over the years?
Once we started dating, almost everything we did had nature involvement with it. It was when he worked during the summer, during high school years, he was worked on an airboat, banding ducks, people that came up from the States. And I would go up on the weekend when he wasn't working.
This was on the St. John River up in Fredericton area.
He would make little excursions to see, we'd climb a hill, it would be a little hike, but he was going up to check the eagle's nest to see if it was active and if there were any eggs in it. Point Lepreau. Long before the nuclear power plant was there, we'd go on a picnic and we'd sit there and watch the migrating birds go by.
Oh,
Way back in time.
And
I
that
see a
was
theme to your dating, Jim.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
yes. I think everything we did had some kind of a connection to nature.
Very often,
Yeah,
yes.
everything we did.
What keeps you curious after all these years?
The more you get to know about nature, the more questions you have.
Oh,
And that leads on to knowing more, and then more questions come up. Because the more you know, the more you realize how little you know.
ah.
Yeah, it's an interesting
I'm
thing.
here. I
in
always
nature.
thought you knew everything.
Well,
There's-
you think you do maybe, and then there's so many things you
There's
realize
always
you
so many new things to see.
don't know. Yes.
And nobody can be an expert in everything or even in one thing. I mean, you never know everything. And in birding in particular, which was Jim's interest and mine also now, you see new birds all the time. Like after seeing almost over 400 birds in New Brunswick, species of birds, you still will see new birds because they're wanderers. They come from away, or they overshoot a migration pattern, or
And how many species of birds are there in New Brunswick?
At the moment, 445 species.
So you have 45 to go.
Yeah, well, a little less than that. I'm at 403 right now.
Oh, okay.
Jean's at 395. And I think right now,
Wow.
actually, we're probably the people that have seen more birds than anybody else at the moment in New Brunswick.
Wow.
Yeah.
some of those birds are extirpated or extinct.
Yes.
So
Yes. One thing I will say, just to follow up on that question for a second, is that one of the things you realize if you've been observing nature over decades, anywhere, but particularly here in New Brunswick, things are constantly changing. Constant change, constant change, constant change. Just as in so many things in life. Climate change, of course, is a factor,
Right.
but there's other factors that really change the landscape, like
us.
like clear cutting and those kinds of things make a major difference in bird populations. Change is constant, and so you have to be prepared for that, but that makes it very interesting at the same time.
yeah.
Okay. And what's the most unforgettable wildlife encounter that you've had together?
I would think that our trip to Mexico to see the monarch butterflies had to be the most unbelievable experience that we've ever had. It was magical is the only word I could describe it. We traveled to the Neo-volcanic mountains in Mexico. And this is the only place where these monarchs go in the wintertime, and they gather there in the millions. Unbelievable experience. When we got up, the further up the mountain we got, the more butterflies we saw. And when we finally got to the point where there are masses of butterflies, it was just, they filled the air. They lined the trunks of the trees with monarch butterflies. They were hanging like grapes from the boughs of these tall Olmel fir trees. And people were talking and all excited about it. And the next thing you know, everybody was just quiet.
We were whispering.
And
Within 5
we
minutes.
just sat there and watched them. It was like magic. A breath of wind, and they'd all stir up and they'd fly, and they'd be at your feet and landing on your hat.
That's amazing.
Maybe. It was just a magical experience. It was
Very much so.
It really was amazing. Then the next day we went to another reserve. We went to El Rosario, which is an extremely well-known one. All these reserves are owned by families. They had a pathway on the way up with proper steps. They had a railing to hang on to when you got there. They had an interpretive center. In fact, El Rosario is the reserve that the monarchs that we tagged at Point Lepreau, two of them were recovered at El Rosario.
They made it to Mexico from
Yeah.
Point Lepreau, 4,250 kilometers at least, straight line, and ended up at the same reserve that we had visited in 2007. That was in 2012.
But we can't neglect to talk about our own province either, because it was just last year we had probably one of the most exciting experiences we've had in a very, very long time. We were on a pelagic birding trip, and that evening, after we got off the water, friends of ours who have a boat took us out for whale watching, and it was, it was magic. It was just
The sea
unbelievable.
was calm and flat. The sonar was showing tons and tons of herring below the surface. So the whales, humpback whales, were there feeding and pretty much had their tummies full because they were just laying on the surface now. and lolling around. We're parked there on the water, and they began to come to us. And one of them came so close to the boat, it raised the flipper, and often you'll see them smack it on the water with force. It raised the flipper as we were going by the boat and gently lowered it down within about 6 inches of the side of the boat.
It was waving to you.
And there was a
was.
little splash coming to the boat from that, and it passed right on by, just on the surface, and rolled over to look.
And
with
you could
its
see the eye.
You could see the eye.
Oh,
It was
And
very
then
cool.
dived, and one of them, whether it was the same whale or not, all of a sudden, suddenly its head came straight up beside the boat within 10 feet and looked at us and then slid back down.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. It was amazing. We've seen lots and lots and lots of
We
whales.
were there for a couple of hours, and the whole time that we were there, these whales were interacting with us, and they were definitely interacting with us. The boat,
They're
was-
curious. For
They were
sure.
curious.
Definitely curious.
They weren't feeding; they were just laying there calmly.
It shows you that you don't have to go to the ends of the earth
To
have a
find
wonderful
something
experience.
Just the end of New Brunswick.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Have there been any trips or outings that went completely wrong and then become a favorite memory?
Tim and I have done an owl survey for 25 years.
We did.
Yes.
The nocturnal owl survey
It's-
every spring, every
And
April.
you do it in the spring. You have to have perfect conditions to do it. No wind, clear night. So we have a route.
You do 10 stops and you listen for owls.
And we're well into it. We're probably
We're on stop number 8
Yeah.
and way up on top of a hill.
So we went off the main road and turned up into a road, and it hadn't been plowed.
Hadn't been plowed all winter.
We started up the road, and I said to Jim, I don't think we should go up this road. It hasn't been plowed. And he said, no, we're all right.
We have a
can-
four-wheel
We
drive."
can handle this. I said, okay. And it's right at this point, it's about 11 o'clock at night. Nobody knows where we are because we didn't make a decision to go until 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the weather looked good. Hadn't talked to anyone about it. We get up to the top of the hill.
We're the first car through.
The next thing you know, we're like sideways in the car.
The bottom of the
whole
road
bottom of the road
dropped
fell out
out,
from underneath
And
us.
we are down on the frame and at about a 45 angle facing left. We are mired, no matter four-wheel drive or what.
We're not going
there.
anywhere.
And I look at my watch, it's 11:45, and it's
So-
cold.
Jim says, okay, we will just call. We'll just call.
Well, who do we call?
Yeah, who do we call?
Okay, so we thought of one person. So I plugged the old bag phone in, and no reception.
Oh, no.
So I rolled the window down, and I had enough extension of the cord to stick my arm straight out the window and up in the air, and I got reception, faint reception. So I dialed, I had his number, and it rang several times, and I thought, oh no, he's gone to bed. And finally, hello. I didn't have to elaborate very much. I said, hi, Larry, it's me. I told him who I was. I said, Gene and I are doing an owl survey. And he said, exactly where are you, and how bad is it? So I explained that, and he said, okay, if you'd gone another half kilometer over the back side of the hill, you'd be there till June. But he said, I think I can get you out. So he said, you give me 3/4 of an hour, I'll be there. So now he's going to be way after midnight. So anyway, 3/4 of an hour later, here comes some headlights. Hadn't seen anybody all night. And I'm thinking, it's cold now, below freezing. Our car will probably freeze in because it's water's turning to ice. And
Right.
anyway, long story short, Larry has all the equipment. He's got an all-wheel drive. He's got chains. He's got everything. So he hooks onto the back of our car and tries to, and so anyway, he hooks on. Now he can't do anything because he's on ice. And his wheels are spinning. He's got no traction. But he says, I've got another length of chain. Hooked the other length of chain on, and he was now on solid ground. He pulled us out, and I was never so thankful. I practically went over and kissed him. So anyway, now we're out, and of course we all look at the car, and of course it's just laden with mud around the wheels and everything. And he said, you got to go to the car wash and get that out of there because it's going to freeze on. And he said, it's just cake, and you won't be able to drive very fast on the highway with all that. So okay, so all of a sudden it struck me. I haven't got any change. We're going to a car wash. I said, Larry, have you got any change? He said, here. And
Meanwhile,
he gave me $4, 2 tunis.
So meanwhile, Jim says to him, how much do I owe you?
That's
And
right,
he
yeah.
said, nothing this time, Jim, but the next time you won't be able to afford it.
He wouldn't take any money.
But there
Never
wasn't
did
a
take
next
any
time, right?
Yeah,
There
so,
wasn't a next time.
so-
We changed our route so we wouldn't have,
No, we wouldn't go in
the
there
route
again.
was useless because you couldn't get through. So they changed it to a different route.
That was in April. I went back to see him in July. I gave him $4 plus another dollar for interest.
That was very nice of you.
But that was a disaster.
That was a serious situation.
That was a serious
We
situation.
were really, really
Yeah.
lucky.
What's the rarest or most surprising thing you've seen outdoors?
I think the rarest bird that we've seen was the Stellar seagull that was up in Campbellton a couple of years ago. That's a bird that shouldn't be anywhere
This is a
near
bird
here.
that breeds in Siberia, in inaccessible areas in Siberia. With luck, you could go to northern Japan in the winter when some of them come down and feed around the docks at some of the northern communities there looking for fish. Otherwise, they're totally inaccessible. You'd have to go to Siberia or northern Japan
To
to
see
see
them.
this. And one shows up in New Brunswick, the first time ever on the East Coast.
Did he get lost?
Obviously,
Must
yeah.
have, yeah.
Yeah.
One had been photographed inland in Alaska 2 years, I think, before, and it was quite a sensational story there. I read all about it. And it turns out the bird that ends up in New Brunswick is the same bird. It has the same pattern
In
like
the wing. Yeah.
of white and dark and the wing, and they're kind of unique a little bit. Same bird.
So do you think he flew across like
He had
the
to
northern
come all the way
part
across
of
North
Canada?
America,
Yeah,
all the way
yeah,
across North
yeah.
America. Ends up in Campbellton, New Brunswick, on the Restigouche River.
Whoa.
We went up to see it, saw it briefly. That bird subsequently went to the Gaspé, to Nova Scotia, to Massachusetts, back to Nova Scotia.
Massachusetts.
And it's still
In Newfoundland.
in Newfoundland. It's been in Newfoundland for the last 2 or 3 years. Cecil Johnston, a good friend of years ago, who's passed away, he and I found a Siberian stonechat. That's a species of thrush, or actually old world flycatcher, on Graham and Ann. Was the first record ever for North America. It was in 1983. And we wrote an article for the North American magazine called North American Birds. And that was quite a sensation at the time, because how did it get here?
Where's it usually from? Like where's its usual?
Well, Siberia and
Okay, same area, okay.
Eastern Asia, yeah.
Maybe it followed the other bird.
Well, it might have, no, this was years before. But now there's about 5 or 6 records for North America, but
Most
all
on the
for
West
Alaska
Coast,
and the
yeah.
West Coast. Yeah. Nothing on the East.
Well, maybe that has something to do with my next question. What are the changes that you've noticed in the landscape, seasons, wildlife over the decades?
We've noticed that a lot of our marshes along the coast are now being flooded where they never were before, and the cattails that used to be in these marshes are dying because of the salt water. And
Sea level
we can
change.
see it everywhere. It's in the St. John area and the Castilla Marsh and Grand Manan and all the areas along the coast are facing this rise in seawater, and it's very definitely there.
Yeah.
All the clear cutting that's going on.
And forest intensive
yes.
harvesting,
Yeah,
let's call it
yeah.
that.
And the temperatures changed.
Some species are not able to successfully overwinter. They stash food, but the food doesn't keep because of milder
It's too
temperatures.
warm. Like the gray jay and the
gray jay,
boreal
yeah.
chickadee.
Yeah.
And also the river. Jim grew up in the river in Gondola Point
Just
and
down here.
kept track of when the ice would go out at a certain point in front of their house down in Gondola Point.
Okay.
And when we were young, my records would show the ice going out of the Kennebecasis. It would go out anytime between the 1st of April, which would be really early, and the 15th of April. Now, the river hardly freezes over solidly some years, and it's out by mid-March, or even before. One year it was completely open by the end of February. Yeah.
He keeps these records of return dates of migratory birds every spring. And now they're showing up much earlier. In fact, we used to go to Graham on the long weekend on 24th of May. Now we go a week earlier because the birds are coming back earlier than they used to. And that changes the whole food system that the birds use. They're used to coming back when the leaves were coming out on the trees, and now they're coming back a little early. They're starting back already, and they'll be a week early coming
Yeah,
back.
they're adapting, though, it seems, but the whole thing is changing to more
So the
earlier.
timing is definitely changed
Yeah.
from what it used to be.
But this is all part of the constant changing that goes on, like, the universe has been changing forever. And,
Right.
and then you sort of take that into local conditions, and they're continuing to change.
Yeah. So who's more patient on the trail and who wants to keep moving? I'll bet you I can.
Well, there's no question about
Get
it.
an
Jim is
answer.
more patient than I am. I'm restless. I'd like to keep moving. Let's move on. But Jim has to see everything that's there.
Jim's keeping his mouth shut.
And have you ever disagreed on an adventure plan?
Oh, never.
Never?
No, I don't know. Seriously, not
Never?
If ever. It was not very often. So.
Jean is very accommodating. She'll sort of go almost anywhere, anytime, and
Yeah.
and I'm not insisting we go this or that. We kind
Right.
of try to
No,
work it
if
out. We're
I-
very lucky that way.
If
actually.
I decided there was something I wanted to see, you'd think about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You'd consider
sure.
it. Yeah.
So what advice would you give couples who want to share nature together?
Be curious. That's a fundamental thing. Be curious.
Be open.
Be open.
Open-minded.
And it sort of get immersed in the experience. Find what it is that interests you. Everybody sees nature, I think, in their own way. And that doesn't mean when two people are out there, they're seeing the same things or experiencing the same things necessarily from the same experience.
I would say try new things. Go to
Yes.
places you would normally not go. Usually you find when you do that, you see things that you never expected. We frequently will get in the car and not have any idea where we're going and just see a dirt road and say, why don't we follow that road and see where it takes us? We were at a party.
It's a dinner party.
It was a dinner party. It was family. While we were there, Jim received notice of a very rare bird that had showed up in Campbellton, New Brunswick. So we wanted to go, but we couldn't leave the party. We had to stay.
Uh-oh.
One of my other cousins that was there, Rick, also was a birder. So when he found out about this bird, he wanted to go too.
He wanted to go with us.
We decided about 9 o'clock at night that it was in Campbellton, New Brunswick. We had to go to see this bird.
And we wanted to be there at dawn the next morning.
You learn very quickly that the best time to see the bird is when the bird is there. You do not wait. You go.
This bird was coming to a feeder.
It was a lazuli bunting, and it was a rare
From the
bird.
west. Never
Good
before in
bird.
New Brunswick.
Good bird. So we decided we were going. Rick said he wanted to come with us. So here we are, 9 o'clock at night. We didn't have anything. We may have run home and got binoculars.
We did.
And I don't
Changed
know,
clothes.
Changed clothes out of our party clothes and into our birding clothes and took off. But it's late, and this has been a long day. So we get to Miramichi.
Yeah.
Jim says, Jane, we're going to get up there, and it's going to be too early, and we're tired. So why don't we just get a motel room
Briefly.
and spend the night?
The rest of the night,
And so we asked Rick if that was okay, and he said, sure, I'll pitch in and we'll get a room. So Jim and Rick go to the office.
No, it was way after midnight. The guy was still there.
They go and they say, look, we only need a minimum room that you've
Room
got.
for a few hours.
And we only need it for a few hours, and there's 3 of us. We only need it just for a short period of time. We never even thought about it. Never
The guy was
crossed
hungry.
Cross our mind what he might be thinking, right?
Never crossed his mind. So we get the room, set the alarm clock for about 3 or 4 hours.
We figured if we got up at 4:30,
We should be able to get there by
we
dawn.
could get there by 6:30.
So we got up, continued on. We got there actually before dawn. We were sitting in the parking lot, waiting for the bird to show up. The bird didn't show up. The bird didn't show up. The bird never showed
Never,
up.
never seen it again.
Okay, one last question. After 60 plus years, what still amazes you?
That there's always something interesting left to see.
Oh.
You never run out. If you're interested in nature, no matter what aspect, you will never run out of material to see. Every day could be a new day. Every expedition is a new expedition. There's always something left.
I think the whole life cycle, you get to see the life cycle of all these species of birds and animals and how amazing and what a miracle it really is.
I
And we're
swear,
only
I-
talking about birds and things like that here,
Yeah.
not insects and plants and all the whole
Yes.
array of
And
things in
And how
nature.
everything is interconnected. Like, it's not just us as individuals living on this planet. We're living with this whole connectivity
that's right.
of it, and how interconnected we are, and how important it is to be aware of what is out there and what's happening to us out there.
And if
Yeah.
people think it doesn't affect them, if something happens in nature that affects a species or, a group, ultimately, because of that connectivity, it's going to affect us in the long run. It can, and it probably will.
Thank you both for joining us and
Oh, you're
also
welcome.
for sharing those rich stories.
Brought back a lot of memories doing this.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Glad you got something out of it
Thanks,
too.
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
Okay. Thank you everyone for stopping by to listen to In Our Nature St. John today. Remember, we can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Nature St. John. Donations are accepted through the Canada Helps website. We host events every month and they can be found listed on our website at stjohnnaturalistclub.org/events. Please follow and subscribe to our monthly podcast, and if you have any ideas for discussion, let us know in the comments. Until next time.